Do you want to be ahead of the game for the latest in arts, music, cuisine, and entertainment across the Middle East's most dynamic capital cities? Al Monitor is proud to launch our City Pulse newsletters, focused exclusively on local news, starting in Riyadh, Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha. Each week, our on-the-ground writers in these cities cover the latest cultural happenings and trends, so you have everything you need to know for the best local experiences. To subscribe for free, go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and sign up on our newsletter page.
Welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. Hundreds of Palestinians took to the streets of Gaza on Tuesday evening for rare protests against Hamas. The crowd shouted slogans aimed at the group, including, quote, "We don't want war." A statement purportedly from clans in South Gaza circulated on Tuesday, blaming Hamas for the miserable conditions in the Strip and calling for an uprising. The demonstrations, centered in northern Gaza's Beit Lahia, continued on Wednesday. The context here is significant. Gaza has been ravaged by war since the fighting with Israel began after Hamas's attack on October 7th, 2023. A ceasefire finally came into effect in January, but it broke down last week when Israel resumed major military operations, saying Hamas had refused to release the remaining hostages as per the deal. The protests could spell trouble for Hamas, which has run Gaza since 2007. The group's rival, Fatah, the dominant party in the Palestinian Authority, has called for Hamas to listen to Gazans' demands. My guest this week is the author of Al Monitor's Palestine newsletter, Daoud Kuttab. Daoud takes us through the reasons for the protests, what they mean for Hamas, and how the situation relates to the war. Hope you enjoy. Daoud, welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. My first question is, what exactly is happening with the protests in Gaza? What do we know about these protests, and why are people demonstrating at this time?
Well, I think, I'm not sure it's a plural, but there is one protest that happened in Beit Lahia. Beit Lahia is in the north of Gaza, and it's an area that the Israelis are targeting now. The protesters, of course, are against the Israeli bombing of their town and their refugee camp, but they're also complaining that Hamas should do more to try to get the ceasefire back on track and to basically give a priority to the Palestinian population, which is suffering greatly. They were a little bit upset by the fact that Hamas fired a missile or a rocket from their area. And as a result, the Israelis have come back very hard on that area and are trying to force the relocation of the people of Beit Lahia. And I think that's why they kind of came out in an impromptu protest that is opposed to both the Israelis as well as to Hamas.
And have we seen protests in Gaza like this before? And how significant is this event?
Well, over the years, we've seen many protests, but since October 7th, 2023, we haven't seen protests. Largely because powerful, and there was people were just trying to find their homes and their livelihoods. But after the ceasefire, many people from the north returned back home. They basically started to reassemble their life, and they were a bit surprised, like everybody else, by the harsh Israeli attacks on Gaza, and this time they partially blamed Hamas as well as the Israelis.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Daoud Kuttab after this short break.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al Monitor to follow what leaders and decision makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's AL-MONITOR.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25, for a discount.
Okay, we're back. Daoud, you alluded to it just earlier, but how is the humanitarian situation in Gaza after this nearly 2-month ceasefire and since the resumption of fighting last week?
about 25 days of an entire siege on Gaza. Food is not coming in, humanitarian aid is not coming in, medicine is not coming in. Even the not so effective Jordanian airdrops have been stopped. So people in Gaza are really going through very difficult times. The prices have skyrocketed because of the reduction of food supplies, and the situation has been very, very tense and dangerous and deadly, because without food, people's sicknesses go up, and people's ability to withstand the any kind of viruses will become much higher. So the situation in Gaza is very difficult, and people didn't expect a return to the war, and certainly didn't expect to have war and hunger siege at the same time.
And finally, what does the protest and the resumption of the war with Israel, what does that mean for the Palestinian Authority's plans to return to Gaza?
Well, I think it has many meanings. I think it means that there has to be a solution. It means that not every Palestinian, as the Israelis and the many of their supporters believe, are all Hamas. It shows that there is different points of view among Palestinians, and I think it is a message to Hamas also to weigh the imbalance in power and the absence of any real support to the resistance. The Arab countries are not doing anything. International community is doing nothing, and the U.S. is encouraging the Israelis. So the situation is not easy for Gaza or for the resistance. And I think when the storm comes, you keep your head low. And I think they're trying to send the message to Hamas that this is not the time now to try to stick your head up. It's time to find some kind of compromise and try to hope that things can end. And also, some would say maybe it's time for Hamas to rethink its own strategy.
Daoud, thanks a lot for your time, and we look forward to more of your reporting and newsletters.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Al Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. Until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.